Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tone's Market Analysis for Sunday, March 26th. Again, I'm going to try to jump right into it. I know I'm getting a lot of live viewers these days, and everybody wants to ask their questions, and I would like to answer as many questions as I can. As you can see, once again, my blog has not been updated. I really need to find the time and do this. But more and more things keep coming up. Before it gets out of control, I will take the time and update the blog. If you have not yet read my article, Is a Bitcoin Hard Fork Still Avoidable? Please go ahead and read it. I've gotten a lot of great feedback from it. I definitely recommend that. Also, if any of you are fans of the Bitcoin Uncensored podcast, I was a recent co-host of the Bitcoin Uncensored podcast, as Chris and Joseph are currently on a temporary break. So I filled in for Joseph on this podcast. So go ahead and listen to that. Maybe perhaps I'll be on that podcast again. All right, let's jump right into the markets. I have about 50 live viewers right now, and that number will probably go up. I am trying to make these a little bit earlier to accommodate people in the EU. Unfortunately, I'm not accommodating anyone in Asia, but they will wake up fairly soon and they would be able to watch it on tape. Here's the stock market, and nothing really happened the rest of the week. The last time I did this video was on Wednesday, so we had this green candle. And after this big down day, I don't even know what caused the big down day. My trading season is about to start, and even when my trading season starts, the day-to-day movements of the market aren't that important to me. Now, what is important is this down count: 1, 2, 3, and 4 on Friday. The 4 is a critical mark. We need one more day. If tomorrow the market closes lower than it closed on this big down day, then it's very possible that the stock market is going to be having a bit further to fall in the correction realm. Before I go on, I see Richie Rich in the live chat. Once again, Rich is going to help me compile all of your questions. So please do him a favor and start your questions with the capital word Q. He will put them all together for me, and he will shoot them over to me. I'm not going to screw up this time and display private information that I then had to take down the video and remove. I now have 2 monitors going, and I'll probably turn off screen share anyway. So let's do that. This way I can jump right into your questions. That also means I'm not going to do a very good job keeping an eye on your chat, on the live chat, as I go through the charts. All right. So that's the daily S&P 500. Let's keep an eye out. You have the 50-day moving average, and maybe we can bounce off of it. It would be nice to see a bigger correction down to 2,300 and then bounce to the upside. I know the 50-day moving average could cause a bit of an issue. So it would have been perfect if the moving average was in the 2,300 area, but it's not. It's all the way up here. So let's see how the market reacts this week. On a weekly chart, I had my Fibonacci extension, and we have now pulled back into that extension. My red arrow has already completed. So it would be it would be nice to see it come down to 2,300, but if it doesn't, we're in the middle of a strong market, so that's perfectly fine. Here's gold. I thought gold wouldn't really get this far, but it did. Again, if the market is gonna have some weakness, it's possible gold will have a little bit of strength. This is the daily chart of gold. It's not really like, if it is a head and shoulders, it's a very, like weird looking head and shoulders. But we did pull back up to this Fibonacci line, and it looks like we're reversing. Let's take a look. What I'm gonna do is, I may regret this, but I'm going to clone this red arrow, and I'm going to stick it here. It does look like gold is done, and then it's going to go back down. So let's see what happens there. Let's close that. Here's the weekly chart of gold. Again, I had that red arrow drawn in for weeks. It's possible that gold will have a little more upside, but we're now in this moving average cluster with the 200-week and the 50-week. We're at a Fibonacci retracement level. We are under that red declining trend line. There's really not all that much going for gold. Sooner or later, gold will go down. I mean, basically, the way we can look at it is, and this is a little tricky, here's what you got to consider. Is this low for gold? Is this low the low for this decade, right? We're in 2017, okay? So is this the decade low? Now, I'm assuming that gold wasn't lower than 1,000 in 2010. It might have, but that's kind of irrelevant, right? So is this the ultimate low from the 1900 top? And this is a weekly chart, by the way. So what I am looking at here is if I grab a trend line and I make this trend line green. So it looks great that we made a higher low. But here's a problem. There's two problems. Your momentum indicator has made a lower low. And your other momentum indicator has also made a lower low. So these are just additional signs that perhaps gold didn't bottom yet. And we will see when it bottoms. So I am still bearish gold the rest of this decade, guys. I still think the dollar is going to strengthen on top of it. So let's see how that goes. All right, let's close that. Oil. I'm almost ready to give up on the oil bounce to 60s and 70s. I mean, if we have one more bad week and we're closing below this 50-week moving average, it could spell some doom for oil. But your momentum indicators are still indicating strength. So let's see. If we close this week in the vicinity of $50 for oil, there may be some life in it left. So oil's neutral at the moment, but I'm not going to touch the arrows. I'll leave them as is. All right, let's close oil. I am always bearish the euro, so this current run-up will probably go into that declining 50-week moving average, and after that, I think it'll completely get like crushed. And they're out of sync. What happened there? Here we go. Here is the euro versus the British pound. I didn't actually take this trade. The only reason I didn't take this trade was because I was just too busy to even open one broker where I would have put this trade on. And this is my theoretical trade with, I'll just throw those on here. Like I'll throw my theoretical trades on here because I got no time to manage my trades at the moment. At least directional trades. I manage my option spread trades, but I don't have the time to manage my directional trades. They take way too much babysitting. My direction neutral trades are way easier to maintain. So this is my theoretical trade, my second attempt, and I would have shorted the euro against the pound because I think the euro is overpriced and the pound is underpriced. And so let's see if that materializes. I'm still eyeing this head and shoulders right there. Okay, we're in Bitcoin land now. Probably a good time to throw your questions in. I'm trying to get through as much of the markets as quickly as possible. We are now up to 100 live viewers, which is great. By the way, guys, thank you for your donations. They do help. Also, a few people have reached out to me for consulting gigs. My consulting prices are very reasonable, and basically you can see the price list on my YouTube description. It's denominated in Bitcoin. So if you do have a bunch of questions about the markets, about currencies, that's for you guys. Otherwise, I am taking on consulting gigs with the industries as well. So we'll see. We'll see how much time I'll have for everyone. But I want to keep it open to everyone. But I can't keep answering everyone's questions over Twitter and over YouTube. It's just literally impossible. So I will have to put up some paywalls on a lot of these questions. Okay, so here's the weekly chart of Bitcoin, and I mean, there's nothing scary here, right? I mean, there's nothing to worry about. I mean, look what happened down here back in 2013. Look what happened all throughout 2014. Even look at what happened around here in June of last year after the halving. I mean, things were a lot scarier. Yeah, you have 3 weeks of weakness, but it's really not that bad yet. I mean, we're still in this uptrend here. Yeah, the RSI fell out. The MACD is starting to cross, but that's it's a weekly chart, and that's some indecision this week. You know, it went down, it went back up. So let's see how this week goes. Now, here's the important one. This is my daily channel. Been talking about this channel for years now, and we briefly fell out of this channel down here. Let me change my cursor. Briefly fell out of this channel down here for a couple of days. Well, pretty much just about a day. We fell. Oops. There you go. We fell out of the channel right here, and I'll zoom in on this in a minute. We fell out of the channel right here back in January of this year, fell out of it for like 2 days, and now we're once again out of the channel, and we're now going on the third day. But it's possible we still have about 4 more hours left in the day, and it's possible we're going to close back in the channel. Closing in the channel means going back over $1,000. So that's the daily channel. Let me zoom in on this channel. So here's the zoomed in version of the channel. I'm trying to think how I'm gonna do this here. Get a box going. So you see this candle right here? I'll zoom in even more. There. Okay, that's the zoomed in version of the channel, right? And look at these candles. Look at these wicks right here. Okay, those of you that are technical traders, these are reversal candlesticks. These are candlesticks I personally like a lot. I like seeing these candles. And let's see, here's today's candle. It was inside the channel when I took the snapshot at 996. The current price is 986, so we're about $10 lower. And by the way, this channel will be a little bit different based on what exchange you draw it on. I mean, Bitcoin doesn't have a single price, right? So that's why you got to draw all of these lines as thick as possible. And let's see what happens. You're clearly back in this channel if the price is like 1,020, 1,030. But it's going to have to get to 1,050 fairly quickly, or because this channel is pretty damn steep. And let's see what happens. I'm still hopeful. I think there's still a chance that we're going to get right back in the channel. And I zoomed in on hourly chart as well, and I looked at the math right here. And we only spent a total of about 7 hours below my 915 support. So this creates a real tricky situation, because I was talking about the 915 support when the ETF news broke, and the price fell to about 950 on average across all of the exchanges. And then I was talking about 915 again on this Bitcoin Unlimited scare, or the China scare, whatever caused this guy. Yeah, that's the Bitcoin Unlimited stuff. And this time, some exchanges fell down to about 905. Others stayed up to about 940. But the average fell to about 930, 935. So I came up about $15 short on my 915 perfect buy target. And then we went all the way through 1100. So this is the problem, right? Did I call the bottom at 915? Well, I don't know. I came up a little short. Now here we go again, right? On this downtrend, we, just like over here, we stayed on average $15 above my perfect buy point. Now we fell $15 below my perfect buy point, and you had a total time of 7 hours to buy Bitcoin on average below my 915 point. And now we're going up, and now we're back to just under $1,000, and we're facing some serious resistance right here at 1,000. Now, if we go all the way up to 1100 and keep going up, did I properly call the 915 low? Well, I honestly have no idea. That's not for me to judge. This is also one of the reasons I don't trade Bitcoin, because it's possible you could have missed it right here because it didn't hit it, and it's possible you could have assumed that I took my 915 and kept going all the way down. This is why trading directionally is so freaking hard. You literally have to watch it all the way through. Now, I already see a question coming in. Did I buy any Bitcoin at 915? No, I did not. I didn't buy it. I wasn't going to buy it. If I had a next door neighbor that was willing to sell it to me for cash and I had cash available, I would have bought it. But that didn't happen. And because I'm not, like, I don't have cash coming in, right? If I do work for people, I get paid in Bitcoin. So I'm not a Bitcoin buyer at the moment because I don't have a fiat stream of income. If I don't have a fiat stream of income, I'm not in a position to buy any Bitcoin. If I did have a fiat stream of income, I would be buying Bitcoin in cash through local Bitcoins, and it takes days to set this up. These aren't instant transactions. So it would be very difficult for me to time the perfect buy. And this also allows me to talk about Bitcoin without a position on the line, so that I can talk about it, in the most neutral way possible. Though someone could be critical of me, how neutral can you be? You're holding Bitcoin. So you're always in a, I am always incentivized for the price of Bitcoin to go up. And that's true. I mean, that's a fair criticism. Ideally, you want your Bitcoin pricing analyst to not hold Bitcoin and not trade Bitcoin. I am halfway there. I hold Bitcoin, but I don't trade Bitcoin. But now you have a slight problem if you find your perfect analyst that is totally neutral, that isn't compromised by the position. You found an analyst that doesn't trade Bitcoin and doesn't hold Bitcoin. So he can always give you the most objective, non-biased opinion on the price of Bitcoin. The problem is that this analyst isn't invested at all. So what is keeping this analyst looking at the continuous price of Bitcoin? So this is where a salary comes in, right? Like, if someone was to, that's not going to happen with me, right? But if someone wanted me to be as neutral on gold as possible, they would have to pay me a salary to analyze gold, 24/7, and the salary needs to be enticing enough so that I have no desire to trade gold and no desire to hold gold, in my safety deposit box or in my drawer. Okay. So that's the most neutral trading advice you can get. Like a researcher, a trader, but someone's paying him or her to analyze something without any positions involved. Now, in my case, I'm holding Bitcoin. So when people go on social media and start saying, Bitcoin should fall, that I'm not happy about that because, well, I disagree with many of them as to why it should fall. But even if I didn't disagree with them, obviously, my interests are misaligned because, if Bitcoin goes to $500, my Bitcoin holdings become 50% cheaper. Well, let's just say. Anyway, so right now Bitcoin's coming up. It spent 7 hours below my 915 perfect buy point, which I've been talking about for weeks, by the way. So everyone should have known this was my buy point. There's no way I could have known that after this, that this wasn't going to be the low. I actually thought this was the low. I actually thought that people missed their perfect buying opportunity because it came close enough to my 915. Apparently it didn't. We're back at 915. We're going up. Is this, so the other question that probably on people's minds is right now a stronger buy point at this 1,000 than at the previous 1,000? Which is a very good question. So let me circle these. So the question is right here a stronger buy point than here, or here? Okay, so I will rank them this way. I wish it was easy to put numbers on here. I would rank them in the following way. So I would say on this chart, the strongest buy point on a break of 1,000 was over there. So this was your strongest time to buy. This right here was your second strongest time to buy. Again, this is just charting. There's no fundamental analysis involved. This is all straight up charting. I tweeted this out. This looked like divergence to me. It looked like a higher low. Everything was set for Bitcoin to go back to 1,200 right here at number 2. Okay. In fact, you know what? I'm wrong. Sorry about that. Now that I'm looking at it, I would flip those. This was your strongest buy point on this chart at 1,000 because it appeared to be a secondary low that was higher. This right here was your second strongest buy point off of the 915 bounce or close enough to it. Now, this right here was a very weak buy point. The reason is because this time we were going down. So this comes in at number 4. So now that we were coming back to 1,000, this was not strong. This really looked like it's about to fall. This time around, we're coming in at number 3. So this right here is not as good of a buy point as this was or this was. And that's because we have this resistance right there. This is the 200-hour moving average. It's also the 1,000 round value, but the 50-hour moving average is starting to couple to the upside. So if we can bounce right here, if we go down a little bit, which I believe we already did, we might be ready to turn to the upside. And if we turn to the upside, our next level of resistance is the 1,100 zone because it extends all the way down to here. Okay, so that's our hourly chart. Now let me go to the live version of the same hourly chart. And you can see that since I sent out that tweet, we pulled back a little bit. We might hang around here for a little while. and then turn to the upside with the 50-hour moving average. But we really do need to get back and above 1100, and we need to do this, fairly quickly. We need to do this within the first half of next week, and then we have a chance to go back up. So I'm still fairly bullish. Now, what's going to cause me to be bearish? Well, now we've officially hit my 915 target. And because we are very clearly lower than we were over here, see both of these lows, the one here with a 930 average and the one here with the 885 average, or 890 average, I guess, right? This is a clearly lower low. So what I was worried about is a double bottom, and I don't like double bottoms. They're meant to be broken. This is clearly a lower low, but your momentum was higher. So your RSI is going up, your MACD is going up, your volume is going down. So this is divergence. Again, we had confirmation on this low at 990. Now we have divergence. So all technical signs point to higher prices. So my view is this. I remain bullish the price of Bitcoin on the technical level. But if we get back to 915, at that point, I become bearish. So I think this really is the last technical shot we have for Bitcoin to go back to 1100, 1200, 1300. And I think Bitcoin Unlimited is starting to die out. I really think their peak, I really think they peaked. I honestly think Bitcoin Unlimited has peaked. Somebody mentioned the hard fork of Bitcoin Classic. I have no clue what that means. Did someone try to actually fork Bitcoin Classic from the Bitcoin core code? Or did Bitcoin Classic have their own internal dispute, and now Bitcoin Classic is forking within itself? So I don't know what that even means. I really thought Bitcoin Classic was totally irrelevant at this point, right? Now keep in mind, Roger Ver supported Bitcoin XT and he supported Bitcoin Classic. I've recently seen tweets regarding those. I never supported Bitcoin XT and I never supported Bitcoin Classic. There are plenty of YouTube videos where I was cursing those projects out as much as I've been cursing Bitcoin Unlimited project out. Okay, so to me, I still think technically we are going to go up, and I will change my mind if we go back to 915 and below. Okay, I still feel that we're going to get back into this channel, and if we don't get back into this channel over the next few days, then it's possible I'll change my mind again, because this pink line is going to start acting as resistance. Here's the Brave New Coin Liquid Index. It'll still be a few hours before it updates. As you can see, I did this. I drew this thing back in at the end of January, and I was expecting the 1175, 1150, 1175 resistance to be important. And when we busted above this resistance, made it all the way to 1300 and above, that's a break of about 150 points above that resistance. So it makes perfect sense to then fall 150 points on the other side of it. Now, we did fall an extra 100 on top of that, so it might be a while, but based on the analysis that I did at the very beginning of the year, I wasn't expecting a Bitcoin breakout till April, right? Till looks like mid-April. So I'm not scared yet, guys. I'm really not. So that's about it for me. Let's see. Did I tweet anything out today? That was oh yeah. So my computer came in. I will be setting up a full node. I need to set up a full node soon. I will try and document it, and I will try and make some videos. Let me see here. Oh, yeah, it's the Bitcoin Uncensored episode. So here's the laptop that just showed up. It's actually not a bad laptop. I would love to use it. but it's going to be, I'm just going to install a core SegWit node. Now, there are actually debates. I've had like a few prominent people call me, and I spoke to them. And some people are saying that, well, nodes are not really in control. You're setting up a node isn't really going to do much. And, these people are a little more technical than me. And I disagree with them because other technical people are telling me that this is going to do a lot. And this is the only thing I can do. Like, I'm not a miner, and I'm not a developer. So the only way my best thinking as to how to support the Bitcoin network that I love is to run a full node showing the world what I want, and I want SegWit. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And finally, I mentioned this on the other podcast. Unfortunately, I have not had time to read this balance of power chart. I really, really want to. I really hope it's accurate. I really hope that this has been fact-checked. And if there are something incorrect here, people have already, expressed it. So I do want to read it because this kind of shows you what power you have as a developer, as a miner, as a wallet provider, as a node operator. This is where I am. Node operator. Also user. You're a user, right? And then you have exchanges and merchants. So I am in this area, node operator, or I will be. Right now, I'm just a user, including holders and traders. So I am a holder, and I will be a node operator. So let's see. I'm actually dying to read what power I have and what influence I have over the Bitcoin network. Again, I really hope this is accurate. I cannot vouch for this. I think it's great that someone put this together, and I really hope it's accurate. Let's glance at the world of altcoins. I don't even know why, but let's glance at it. I know people mentioned comments that they want me to talk about altcoins. I don't want to talk about altcoins. I think they're all, a joke. But Decred's coming up. I already gave my thoughts on Decred. I mean, I think it's only coming up because prominent people kept talking about it, and people moved it up. Everyone's talking about Pivx. I have no clue what Pivx is. Somebody told me that it's a clone of Dash. I'm like, okay, well, if there's money to be made, somebody will clone it, right? Steemit is back to number 15. I don't know why. That doesn't belong there. And someone is, trying to come up with a better Steemit. Like a lot of these things, like if there's money to be made, someone's going to try to make money on it. There's really nothing else here. Litecoin at $4, I guess, is underpriced because of this insanity of Ethereum being worth 50 and Dash being worth 93 and Monero being worth 20. I think that's insane. I think Litecoin is grossly overpriced on that end, and Ethereum Classic is probably grossly underpriced compared to Ethereum. And Augur is always overpriced. I think that's just nonsense. I have a whole video about that. Yeah, so there's not much else to say on that end. All right. I see the chat whizzing by. So Rich, thank you for helping out. We're just under 200 viewers at the moment, and a little less. I've been hitting 250, but I guess I am doing this a little earlier than usual. So let's see. I already have some questions coming in. I will end screen share for now, and so this way you guys are gonna looking at my ugly face for a little while. As you can see, I don't even have time to shave right now. This is bad. And I'm going to start taking a look at your questions. If I need to do a screen share again, I'll do a screen share. All right, good. I got this video done in just over 30 minutes, and I already spent some time talking about stuff outside of price. All right, so here we go with your questions. I don't want this. I want to try to keep this video at like an hour. Well, one of the reasons is because I really do want to watch the North Carolina versus Kentucky game, even though my bracket is almost busted. So let's look at the questions. Any comment on asset storage switch from counterparty to Ethereum? I did not even know that. So storage is dumb. I don't have any videos explaining why storage is dumb. So switching from counterparty to Ethereum. Okay, so Ethereum is just like, Ethereum is dumber than counterparty, right? So storage going to Ethereum like makes perfect sense. They have no clue what they're doing. So they went from like one project that I think is nonsense to a project that I think is a bigger nonsense. I was never like into counterparty either. I still don't understand it all that well. And one of the reasons why I don't care for it is because I don't understand it. Now people say that, well, Tone, you need to understand it. And I'm at a point where so far, like 99% of the time, if you try to explain something to me in crypto and I don't get it, there's a 99% chance it's either stupid or a scam. That's how it's always been. So at this point, I still don't see a need for counterparty. And some very prominent people that I respect tried to convince me otherwise, but they have not done a good job. I am willing to be convinced that there is a need for counterparty. I have not yet seen it. So perhaps I'll change my mind. But as of right now, counterparty, I don't see a use for it. So I see an even lesser use for Ethereum than counterparty. So storage going from one to the other means absolutely nothing. Storage only has a storage token because they had a shitty business model that VCs weren't going to support. So they offloaded the risk onto you, and now you can go ahead and trade this nonsense around. All right, next question. Do you feel that the whole BU scare has started cooling down? I think so. I think cooler heads are finally starting to prevail. And if I do go back to my screen share, and we go to the daily chart, or let's go to the hourly chart. Why not? You see that you see the panic selling. I mean, I know this is Bitfinex, but I mean Bitfinex volume does matter. So this is the panic after the ETF got rejected. See this huge volume spike? Now here is the major panic. So around here, so you see this selling right here. Let me get a different cursor. So right here at the top, right around here, this was around March 16th. Around this time, Antpool switched to Bitcoin Unlimited. And you saw this initial big selling. And then the selling hit like capitulation over here. The next few days later on 3/18, where you had these monster volume spikes. This recent sell-off that took us to a lower price did not have any volume panic in it. So this tells me that the panic is over. And this is why I think BU is, I think BU hype has climaxed, if for a lack of a better term. I could be wrong, but that's just my current opinion here at 3:40 p.m. Eastern time on whatever day today is, March 26th. All right, next question. Is market sentiment going to go from FUD to FOMO with the bounce of 900 Bitcoin per dollar and possibly building support for SegWit? No, the FOMO is going to set in above 1300, above even 1200, I'd say. The FOMO is going to set in when the price goes back above. Let's split the middle here, right? When the price goes above 1250, I believe the FOMO is going to set in. I believe that if the price goes above 1250 or 1300, it will only do that if people feel that SegWit is picking up momentum. And if people feel that SegWit's picking up momentum, what's going to cause the FOMO is every single speculator, from altcoins on down to those that learned about Bitcoin yesterday but are scared to get in because of the controversy. Everyone is going to try to be smart and get ahead of everybody else to get in before SegWit activates. The kind of FOMO I'm looking for is gonna make this having FOMO look small. So I remain bullish on my first day of the year target of 2,000 per Bitcoin by mid-August. I remain with that view because this having FOMO took us from about $450 all the way to 775 in a matter of, what do we got here? End of May into middle of June. So less than 1 month. In less than 1 month, the price of Bitcoin went from 450 to 775, right? So that is a different, that is almost a doubling. That's about a 75%. That's about a 75% rise in the price of Bitcoin in a matter of 3 to 4 weeks. This was the FOMO of people realizing that the halving is going to take place in July, and they want to get in before the halving because the halving is going to cause the rise in the price. And everybody got in way in advance. And when the halving actually came, not only has the market already been selling, but it had continued to sell for the next 2 months. Okay? This is the kind of FOMO I'm looking for. So a doubling of the price, when people realize that SegWit is actually going to happen at some point in the future, is very, very reasonable. And if we, in a few weeks' time even, right? So we can go from $1,000 to $2,000 in a span of 2 to 3 weeks. On the FOMO that at some time this year, SegWit will, get in. And if SegWit actually gets in, there'll be a small sell-off. But if SegWit doesn't get in, there'll be a big crash. So be careful. But that's what I'm expecting. So that's my view on FOMO. Next question. What are some challenges that Bitcoin has faced and overcome that no altcoin has faced before, besides having a successful anonymous beginning? Well, there were several, right? So Bitcoin has overcome attempts to hard fork it twice before, Bitcoin XT and Bitcoin Classic. Bitcoin has also overcome a terrible bug created by Mike Hearn in 2013, right around the time I was getting into Bitcoin, where Bitcoin actually forked and miners were building on the wrong chain. Like all the miners had to immediately be contacted, and these miners gave up, like many blocks because they were building on a chain with a bug in it. And there were 2 chains for like a day. You can go back to that. This was back in March of 2013. So that was a huge challenge. I mean, people even said if that happened today, it would be so difficult. I mean, the core team would not be able to get all the miners on the phone within an hour, not to mention that there is such animosity towards core that they would have difficulty convincing them that it's a bug and that you need to give up your mining gains from the wrong chain. So that was a huge challenge that Bitcoin overcame. Not to mention, I mean, and this is very controversial, when the Bitcoin block limit was lowered to 1 megabyte, that was also a challenge that some people didn't want, but it was done for the for the viability of Bitcoin into the future. Now, people are now arguing that that was very bad and we need to go back to what it was before. But there were reasons why that lowering of the block limit was put in place. And one of those was the fact that the bigger the block, the harder it is for a regular person to run the node. And also, dominant miners can remain more dominant. Like larger blocks create miner centralization. So for example, I'm about to set up a full node. The Bitcoin blockchain is 110 gigabytes big. The Ethereum blockchain is actually now bigger than that and growing much faster than that. So Ethereum is totally screwed. It's insane. But anyway, let's get back to Bitcoin. So right now, I'm able to download 110 gigs of data of the Bitcoin blockchain that is growing at approximately 50 gigs a year. If you double the block size, it's going to grow at 100 gigs a year. If you quadruple it, it's going to grow at 200 gigs a year. Okay? What happens in 20 years? It's exponential functions can creep up on you, right? We really need to scale off chain. And some other challenges, right? Like honestly, I think the biggest challenge that Bitcoin has always faced is, how do you know your core developers aren't, government moles? How do you know they're not CIA agents? How do you know there isn't something malicious in the code that is so well written that no one is able to spot it until it's too late? And I think that the hardest job of the Bitcoin core developers is figuring out which people should have admin rights to update code and which people's lines of code should actually get in. And look, I have my criticisms of Bitcoin Core as well, and like some legit criticisms of Bitcoin Core are being pointed out to me. And perhaps when we win this battle against Bitcoin Unlimited and Bitcoin Unlimited goes away, at this time next year, you will see me be critical of our Bitcoin Core team if they're doing something that I don't approve of. Again, I'm not there's no money paying for this, just your donations. So I am as neutral as possible on that. And when the time comes, I'll be critical of the core team. It's just now is not the time for me to be critical of the core team, because with all of the core team's flaws, the BU team is so incompetent that I cannot give them control of it, right? So once BU goes the way of Bitcoin XT and Bitcoin Classic, it'll be time to have some legit criticisms of Bitcoin Core, and they might have to compromise on some things, but it's not going to be this. It's not going to be a compromise to hand over the reins to Bitcoin Unlimited developers. All right, I might have gone off on a tangent there, but let's get back to the questions. Is Ethereum... Oh, man. Either I don't know that word or that word is misspelled. Concurrencing. So I'm not sure what that means. So is Ethereum something BTC and inflating its price? I'm sorry, I'm not following the question. Hey, Rich, if you see some, like, I'm an idiot. I'm an immigrant who doesn't know English. So if you're gonna paste the questions and you see something weird, please feel free to correct the spelling. So I'm not sure how to answer that because I don't understand the question. All right, next. Is Bitcoin damaging to the USD? Not yet. It's not damaging to the USD. If anything, Bitcoin is liberating the US dollar, because people always people always complain, well, everyone uses the US dollar to do illegal activity. Well, Bitcoin is here. Bitcoin can take over all of the bad things of the USD. And then, USD can be a currency for the all, legit transactions, and Bitcoin can become the currencies of all, questionable transactions, right? So Bitcoin could be very complementary to the US dollar. Also, the US dollar is so big, Bitcoin is just, it's not bothering it yet. But on the flip side, you know, like every king is paranoid of, you know, every single little person that thinks they're there to conspire against them, right? This is why we have a spying machine. Germany had it, you know, Britain had it, like everybody has it. So the bigger you are, the more threatened you are by the smallest and most inconsequential of people, whether legitimately or illegitimately you're scared of them. Look, Bitcoin we have our own problems, right? Like let's deal with taking on the government when we can resolve our own problems, which we're having a challenge on doing, by the way. All right, next, I saw something about YouTube turning into a pay $30 USD per month service. Is that true? I don't know. YouTube, Google, I'm hearing rumors that Google Hangouts is going to go away. I mean, Google is looking to seriously monetize this. And we'll see what happens. We'll really, it would be unfortunate, but Google is seriously looking to monetize Hangouts and Google, period. So I have no idea. This is, well, let's stick to, like, you know, economic questions. That's something that I'm sure you can Google, because Google owns YouTube. Is Bitcoin dominance going down, inflating its price? No, I mean, Bitcoin dominance going down because people are moving money from Bitcoin into altcoins, but it can come back even faster than it left. So these things always fluctuate. Have I seen Elix charts? I've never heard of Elix. On TradingView and the Mega Bull cycle, he is big on. So I don't know if Elix is a person or a ticker. I guess it's a person. He does hit on a lot of tops and bottoms, but always promoting the Mega Bull cycle. I don't know if that refers to Bitcoin charts or charts in general. I can pull up a really cool chart for you guys. I wish I had time to even publish it on TradingView. I've been meaning to email Zero Hedge, because I think he would be very interested in this chart. I'll show it just for you guys. I used it for my presentation at Anarchapulco. I hope this is it. Not sure. Hold on. Yeah, this is it. A little skewed though. Let's see here. So this is my chart for the history of the Dow Jones Industrial Average from the creation of the Federal Reserve until now, and then projected into the future. And there's a lot going on in this chart. And I kind of used the backdrop of somebody else's chart, but then I added, I did a slightly different analysis. And so that's a huge bull cycle that I'm looking at. And I'm looking for the Dow Jones to come close to 100,000 points. So there you go. So this was the basis of my presentation at Anarchapulco. None of them wanted to hear me say that, right? Because the whole conference is based on an imminent crash of the Dow Jones Industrial Average down to, 1,000 points from its current level of 20,000 points. And I sat there and I said, well, there's a higher probability that it's going to go to 100,000 versus 1,000, or even versus 10,000 at this point. We're in a bull market, guys. Gotta live with it. I'm sure everyone was saying everything they're saying today back here in 1983, that the 1929 crash is imminent, and then their mouths were open during the 1987 crash, which kind of looks like nothing on this chart. Okay, let me get back to questions. I'll just leave this on there for you guys. But I really do want to send this over to Zero Hedge. But again, like, it's all time. Like, I wish I had more time on my hands. All right, so I think I have the same question again. Is Ethereum concurrencing Bitcoin too much? I don't know what the word concurrencing means. Sorry, like I said, I'm an immigrant who barely knows English. Couldn't Bitcoin remain as is, like gold, store of value, and alts handle the overcapacity, coffee, and retail? Maybe, probably not. And here's why. It's because at the end of the day, if you're a proof of work chain, well, if you're not a proof of work chain, if you are a proof of stake chain, then you're not interesting. You're not innovative. There's nothing there. We've had proof of stake forever. So you have to be a proof of work chain to be like Bitcoin. But they're all competing for the same electricity, and they're all ultimately competing for the same hardware, and or the same investment in hardware. And at some point, a lot of this mining of altcoins to secure these altcoins takes place to get to the Bitcoin. So, like, there's no security there. And that's why I don't really think that altcoins are going to be viable. People will just build, other channels on top of the Bitcoin that can't scale on its own. And we do need transaction malleability fixed. So if transaction malleability is fixed, we can start building the Lightning Network. People will come up with other solutions to scale on top of Bitcoin, scale off-chain. So people can still use Bitcoin off-chain. They're just not going to be as elegant. They're not going to be as private. They're not going to be as clean. They're going to be a lot more intensive to program, but they're doable. So I actually don't think there is much of a future for these altcoins, even in the micropayment space. Get a Litecoin address for tips. No, I don't think I'm going to do that. I can't. I can't support altcoins, guys. I'm sorry. If you're really dying to tip me a micropayment that you need to use Litecoin, you can't use Bitcoin, then then it's okay. Don't tip. If you want to tip in micropayments, just wait. Bitcoin will get there, or tip once a month for $10. I don't know, whatever you like, right? But I can't. Or just I would say use Shapeshift, but they like rape you with the fees, so I don't want you even doing that, right? Like I want you, and you can tip me with like a 0 confirmation fee. I don't care. It'll get to me. It'll get to me eventually. Like if you're gonna tip something serious, throw a fee on there. You don't want it to get lost, but if you're gonna tip a few bucks, I mean, don't put a fee on there. Put like a penny fee. I don't care. It'll get to me. Blocks aren't full. I know blocks aren't full. Bitmain is mining empty blocks, and when they're not mining empty blocks, they're mining like half full blocks. Antpool is, via BTC is. If blocks were full, every block would be 1 megabyte. They're not full. I don't want to hear that nonsense. Do I have a Bitcoin FOMO price I will sell at? Well, if we hit my 2,000 target by mid-August, I'll consider it. I mean, if I pull up that, article, let me do that. If I pull up, let me see here. If I go to publications, yeah, I'm gonna stay on a little bit longer, guys. I see I have like about 4 or 5 more questions. If I go to publications and I go to Bitcoinist, there you go. Published on 1/3/2017. Got published on the 3rd day of the year. So let's see what I said. Okay, so there it is, right? I'm looking for a price as high as 2,000 by end of summer. I really am in mid-August. Like, to me, summer ends in August. Like, I know summer technically ends mid-September, but or like September 20th, whenever the solstice is. But to me, there's 3 months of summer: June, July, and August, right? So if sometime in August we reach 2,000, and after that, I'm looking for a price drop. See, because I'm looking at for the year to close between 1,500 and 1,750. That was my view back on January 3rd. That's still my view today. I mean, I'm not privileged to any information. 2,000 by midsummer was my best guess. And if we blow through it and we go to 3,000, I'm going to feel like an idiot if I sold at 2,000. And if we don't make it, then I'm definitely not selling. But if we're FOMOing into August, just on the rumor that SegWit is going to pass, would I consider selling? Maybe. But again, I would have to sell it for cash. Am I going to want to risk? I mean, how many Bitcoins am I going to sell? 1, 2? I'm not going to be standing out there on the street trying to sell 10 Bitcoin. First of all, I don't want to get arrested. I don't want to make any transactions over $3,000 for starters. Would I take some money out and pay off some bills? Yeah, perhaps. I don't know. I'll deal with that. I'll deal with that good problem when it happens. But yeah, sure, I'll consider it. But I rarely listen to my own advice, so I have no idea what I'm going to do. All right, so let's see. I got a few more questions here. Will you ever do commentary on option trading? Sure. I mean, I'll talk about options in general. I'm not going to talk about my option strategies. One day perhaps when I get organized, I'll start teaching more seminars on trading, period, and those that have taken my trading courses and are experienced traders can then learn to do option trading. Like, option trading is risky and it's hard and it's not easy. I don't talk about it because there's so few people that can understand it. To be honest, I don't expect more than a few hundred people in the world that I can that. Oh man, I'm trying to phrase it the right way. I'm considering myself very, very knowledgeable when it comes to options. So I don't expect more than a few hundred people in the world to have a truly intellectual, like, to challenge me on my knowledge of options in the world. Maybe 100 people, maybe 200 people. That's maybe I'm overestimating myself, but I would be surprised if there are over 100 people in the entire world that can challenge my understanding of options and trading options. And I'm almost never in an intelligent, like everyone that's watching me right now, if you've been in Bitcoin for a few years, the way, I don't know, your dad suddenly comes up to you and asks you, hey, so I read about this Bitcoin thing in the newspaper yesterday. Let me tell you what I think and what you should do. That's kind of how I feel about anyone I talk options with, even if they've worked on Wall Street, because I've been trading options since 2005, and we're in 2017, and I trade them by hand. And options is so, and I've built my own strategies. specifically in options. So it's hard for me to talk about it because I feel that there is such a small number of people that would even understand what the hell I'm talking about. All right, next. For storing Bitcoins, have you considered a hardware wallet? I am very strongly considering hardware wallets right now. But again, right, I'm spending like a shitload of money on my Bitcoin security now, right? Like, look, guys, I'm cheap. I made this clear, right? I just bought a laptop. That's just under $200 to run a full node. I really want to use hard wallets, right? So that's what, $120 for a Trezor and like $50 for a Ledger. I'm not sure which one is better. I'm leaning towards the Trezor. Then I have to figure out how to use them, and also I don't feel comfortable, writing down a 12-word seed and hiding it all over the world, right? I'm not comfortable with that kind of security. So my Bitcoin security is not perfect right now, but I'm comfortable with it in that I'm not going to screw up to lose whatever Bitcoin I have. So, but I am strongly considering hardware wallets. Am I still bullish oil? Yeah, you should rewind the video. I talked about that earlier. What do I think of the BAT token that's going to run on the Brave browser? I don't know anything about it. I heard that they're gonna create a token for the Brave browser. I try not to comment on things until at least 5 minutes of research on it, and I have not done that. It's probably dumb, but don't hold me to that comment. I really need to take a look at it. Okay, guys, on that note, I am done with questions. I am now looking at the chat. I'll stop screen sharing here. So I'm now back to looking at the chat. So if it's way too much for me to catch up on. Do I see another Bitcoin dip coming? You might have come late. I talked about all this earlier in the video, so please rewind. I mean, we're now back down to 970. I honestly think that if we go back to the 915 area, we will probably go much lower. Not much lower, but lower. So I think we are going to turn up at this point. I think the worst is over, but I could be wrong. And I only think the worst is over because my charts are indicating that the worst is over. I would like to see it bounce off of the 50-hour moving average. So I would like to see it. I drew it over here, right? Where did I draw this? I drew it right here, right? So maybe lower. So let me draw it. Zoom out here. Let me draw it on this. So let me put an arrow in here. So if we continue to go down into the 50-hour moving average to about the 950 area over the next few hours, we can then bounce off of it as it turns and go back and once again face the 1,000 price challenge. And I do believe that if this happens, we will break the 1,000. And if we break the 1,000, I'm looking for 1,100. And if we can break 1,100, then there's this other mouth kind of pattern that we need to break. And look, if we go back above 1,200, that means there's no fear, and everyone that exited are going to try and come back. All right, I'll take 3 more questions, Rich. By the way, huge props to Richie Rich for helping me out and filtering the questions. I don't get to scroll through your chat. It's too much, but we still have over 200 viewers. I see more viewers joined. But I'm sure I'll take 3 more questions, Rich. Pick out the best 3. Now, what do we got here? Is the scaling debate frivolous if some Bitcoin users don't learn that it takes years of work to make an efficient payment network like Visa? So why are they against SegWit if they can wait? Look, I don't know. I mean, the whole Bitcoin Unlimited proposition is just so dumb to me that I don't know. I can't explain it. It's hard. I mean, they want everything now, and not to mention that like there's not much competency in the development. So I don't know. It's hard for me to answer that question, right? Because I don't know what other people are thinking. The best would be BU plan with Bitcoin Core developers. No. Oh yeah, and actually, I wanted to address this question beforehand. So people keep talking about this compromise, and the compromise is impossible. The compromise is impossible because one solution is a soft fork and one solution is a hard fork. There's no compromise. There's no compromise between is the earth flat or is the earth round. There's no compromise there. There's no compromise how old the earth is other than, margin for error, right? You can't just say, well, I think the earth is 6,000 years old and you think it's 4 billion years old. Can we just compromise in the middle? Can we just divide the 2 numbers and we'll say the earth is 2 billion years old, right? I mean, there's no compromise there. There's either science or there isn't science. And that's one thing, right? So here's the other thing. Here's why it also can't compromise, right? So Bitcoin Unlimited tries to hold core to a statement that not all of them even agreed to, that, well, they agreed to do SegWit and a hard fork to 2 megabytes. And some people in core programmed to hard fork to 2 megabytes, and then they tested it. And they came to the conclusion that it was too dangerous to do, and it would fracture the network, and it will create 2 coins. So now the core developers are in a position where they're on record as saying hard forking to 2 megabytes is a moral hazard. So what do you want them to do? If they now go and compromise to hard fork, it's either they are irresponsible, creating the moral hazard that they said they can't do, or they're liars and they lied when they said it was dangerous and it really wasn't, right? Either one of those scenarios makes me lose confidence in our core developers, and then I leave Bitcoin for good. If Bitcoin Unlimited wins, I just leave Bitcoin as a public personality. But if core, after core convinced me that a hard fork would be dangerous, if they now change their mind and compromise on the hard fork, I will have no respect for the core developers. And if I have no respect for the core developers, I mean, I might as well go and buy Dash now, right? I mean, that's my problem with Dash, right? I have no respect for the core developers. I have no respect for the Ethereum core developers. I have some respect for the Monero core developers. So if I'm buying any altcoin, it will probably be Monero. But I don't believe that Monero is useful nor has a future. So I wouldn't buy it, right? I think it's a bad investment. But at least I trust the core developers. And that's why there cannot be a compromise. It just can't. One side will win over the other. Now, the arguments that can be made on both sides are, well, if there is a hard fork and both chains persist, it will be the worst case scenario for the future of Bitcoin. We would be much better off as a community of Bitcoin and crypto in general, if one of the chains wins outright, whether it's BU or SegWit, of course, I prefer SegWit, but like someone can have a very reasonable argument with me, a very reasonable debate. If Bitcoin Unlimited forks, and Bitcoin Unlimited starts to win, whether they win legitimately or they win by their miners attacking the Bitcoin Core chain and rendering Bitcoin Core chain useless, winning that way. That doesn't matter, right? Some people will say that if there's a hard fork and one chain has the ability to maliciously defeat the weaker chain, it's exactly what they should do, because the future of Bitcoin is brighter if there's only one Bitcoin. That is a very reasonable position to take, and that is debatable. Okay, this is why people are very upset about the proposal of proof of work changes. And I believe that the proof of work changes will only come as a last resort, like a cornered animal will do anything to survive. If Bitcoin Unlimited forks and Bitcoin Unlimited has more power and Bitcoin Unlimited becomes a dominant chain, which I don't believe that it would, but if that's the case, and there is a fear that Bitcoin Unlimited mining power will attack the Bitcoin Core chain to render it useless, kind of like Ethereum tried to do by crashing the price of Ethereum Classic. Then as a last resort, like a cornered animal, the Bitcoin Core developers will change the proof of work function on the core chain so that the Bitcoin Unlimited miners cannot attack that chain. This, of course, will infuriate Bitfury, so that they will, their name becomes very fitting, because they might have a bit of an issue. But is this something that they should do? I mean, this is very, very debatable, and this is very controversial, right? Should I be in support of Bitcoin proof of work changes if the core chain is, let's say, 10 or 20% of the network on the edge of dying, and someone is trying to convince me that, well, Tone, if we keep this weak Bitcoin Core chain alive at 20% of the network, wouldn't that would be worse for the future of cryptocurrency than if we all give up and we switch over to what I consider the dark side of handing the developer reins to the incompetent Bitcoin Unlimited team? Would that be better for the future of Bitcoin? Maybe. Maybe it'll be better. Maybe it won't. I don't know. But this is very debatable. But I don't think it'll come to that. But I'm playing my own devil's advocate here. All right. Okay, fine. 2 more questions. What do you think of a series and peace initiative by Hunt? That means Thomas Hunt. So Thomas Hunt's recent podcast where he interviews people from both sides. I mean, Thomas Hunt is taking I guess, I don't really watch his show, but I think he's taking what's that really, really old guy who went from like CNN to RT? Shoot, forgot his name. He's like 90 years old or something. Anyway, I think you guys know who I'm talking about. So he takes the position that he's just going to ask general questions, and he's going to let all of his subjects speak, and Larry King, thank you. I think he's taking the Larry King position of just letting the subject speak his piece, so that others can analyze and understand. I guess there is a need for that, but most podcasts do that. But at least Thomas Hunt is doing it on one topic, right? At least Thomas Hunt picked one topic of, Bitcoin scaling, and he's bringing in everybody he can so that they can, rant out their feelings on it, right? I think that's okay because both sides will get to be heard. Now, this is very different than shows like Epicenter Bitcoin and Let's Talk Bitcoin, where they would just like bring on a scammer like Dan Larimer, or they would bring on a scammer like Josh Garza with Paycoin, and they would just like let them convince the world that they've built a better Bitcoin, right? They would like, bring on Amanda Johnson. Like what I have to say about those shows like Epicenter Bitcoin, if you're going to bring on Dan Larimer and have him, sell Steem it, then the following episode, bring on someone that's going to tell you why Steem it's a scam, right? So in a way, what Thomas Hunt is, he had Peter Todd on to talk about the difficulties and the problems with Bitcoin Unlimited, and I strongly recommend that. Now, me personally, I have not seen the interview with Roger Ver that Thomas Hunt did, Mad Bitcoins. I have not seen the interview with Adam Meister that he did with Roger Ver, because I can't listen to Roger Ver anymore. I've heard everything Roger had to say. I don't agree with it. There's nothing for me to learn there, and I'm just going to waste my time. So at this point, if like Andrew Stone comes on a podcast and he's being challenged with some tough technical questions, I'll listen. But if it's another mouthpiece talking about, like me, like I'm sure Bitcoin Unlimited people are tired of listening to me because I'm not technical enough to convince them technically that Bitcoin, that SegWit is the way to go. So I don't listen to Roger Ver anymore. All right, last question, guys. Are you familiar with CFD trading? So CFD stands for contract for difference. I am very familiar with CFDs. I mean, 10 years of my life was spent helping to build risk models, and CFDs were an asset that we would do risk on. And CFD simply means it's a derivative where the underlying is trading, and you take a bet on the underlying without either of the parties ever holding on to the underlying. So for example, you and I do a CFD on Apple stock where I think Apple is going to go down and you think Apple is going to go up. And then at the end of this contract, either there is a term limit to this contract. Those are usually forward contracts that have expiration dates. CFDs sometimes have expiration dates, I think, but CFDs are just, tradable. So at any time, I can just sell this contract to someone else. Hopefully it's liquid enough, or you and I have an expiration date. And at the end of the contract, whatever the price difference is in Apple stock, change the cash value of that difference. And Bitcoin is very popular. I mean, sites like One Broker, and which I do have an affiliate code for, and I wish I had more time to trade on One Broker. Of course, it's an unregulated exchange. It's been around for a while. I mean, keeping your value there is equivalent to keeping your money in BTCE. They can steal it anytime. It's not secured by anything, but it's a straight up CFD platform, right? I mean, you literally bet on Apple stock and you exchange Bitcoin. So it's totally anonymous. I mean, it's you don't want everything to be a CFD, right? Like some people need to trade Apple stock. If everyone trades Apple stock on CFD, where is the price discovery of Apple stock that uses the underlying for your CFD contract? Okay, and futures contracts that don't require physical delivery are also kind of like CFDs with expiration dates. So they're more like forward contracts. Now we're getting into like straight up finance. Also, the differences, there's two differences between forward contracts and futures contracts. The difference is that futures contracts versus forward contracts, futures contracts are regulated and they're on an exchange. Futures contracts are marked to market. So that means every day money gets exchanged in a way, right? So if you and I are in a futures contract on Apple, which doesn't exist, it would be standardized. So the futures contract would always be, let's say, 1,000 shares, like futures contract on gold, right? So a futures contract or silver. Futures contract on silver is 5,000 ounces. It's always 5,000 ounces. There are different silver futures contracts, but the most popular one, SI, is 5,000 ounces of silver. It's always 5,000 ounces of silver. And futures contracts, they always trade in that lot, and they're always have a specific expiration date that's regulated by the futures exchange. It's always whatever, the third Friday. I forget what the futures contract. But you're notified by your broker. And every day, the value is actually changing hands from one party to another. So at the end of the day, they settle. They're not, the delivery happens on expiration date, but the value, the margin value actually moves around. With a forward contract, they are not standardized. Your forward contract can be any size you and your counterparty decide. And also with that forward contract, the date is arbitrary. You and your counterparty decide. And with forward contracts, they're not usually marked to market. So you wait till the forward expires, and then the value gets transferred. So those are some of the differences between forward and futures. But in both of those, forward and futures, the actual underlying changes hands. In a CFD or a credit forward difference, the underlying never changes hands. So you're just exchanging the fiat difference or the Bitcoin difference. All right, so I'm actually glad that I closed off with a traditional finance question. If you have more questions, I am available for consulting, and some people are calling me up on it. My rates are very reasonable and denominated in Bitcoin. If you have any additional questions and you would like to have me all to yourself on one of these videos for an hour or two, please reach out. I will close off with going back to the Bitcoin chart. And as you can see, we came and we touched the 50-hour moving average at exactly 955. So I am actually going to do something here. I would once again, I'm going to zoom in. I'll show you guys. Those that stuck around. Let's see here. I'm going to zoom in into my hourly chart. And I'm going to throw a hypothetical trade out, which I'm not going to take, but I'll throw it out there. Here's my hypothetical trade. Should have done this like 10 minutes ago. Would have made a lot more sense. And this is how I'm going to close off, guys. All right, where is the thing? Oh, here it is. Long position, right? So this would have been such a great buy, but I missed it, so it's okay. So I missed the 950 buy. Okay, fine. 960. Unfortunate, off by 10 bucks. I want to make sure, I would make sure I get into the trade, right? So I'm going to go in here and let's take a look at the parameters, right? So it's at exactly 960. And by the way, the last time I did one of these trades, it didn't work out. So I would try going bullish again. And I'm going to expect it to hit the moving average. So I would go, yeah, it's an hourly chart. Yeah, let's go all out. Why not? So I'm actually going to be looking for 1100. Oops. 1100. And my stop loss is going to be below 915. So let's make it 910. Right? I guess I'm being kind of lenient on the no, I'm not going to do that. 935, because 930. There you go. Settled. 930. So this is one of my, low risk, high reward. So this is what I would be looking at. I think we just pulled back to the 50. I mean, the perfect time to execute this trade would be right at the 50-hour moving average. So right at 950. But I don't know if it's going to go back to 950, but I see it at 960. So this is what I would do. I would attempt this trade. But again, right, this is why I'm not a directional trader. I trade what I know. And I'm not going to be looking at the price of Bitcoin for the next 3 hours because I'm going to go watch a basketball game. No, watch the North Carolina-Kentucky game, which already started, and I'm already missing. So I had these arrows drawn in. I now put in my my trade in, and let's see what happens, you know? But like I said, ideally, I would have been looking at this, picked it up at 950. I would have only been risking $20, and I would have been looking for a nice fat gain back to 1100. Okay. And let me zoom this back out. Just wanted to draw it in there nice and thick. And now we can go back to, sometimes it's hard. Like you draw these things in and then you got to match everything up again. Okay. There you go. All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you, Rich, for organizing the questions. I'm not going to go through the chat, so I hope there was nothing important that I missed. And catch you all on the next episode of Tone's Market Analysis, which will most likely come on Wednesday. And maybe I'll try and make it like 6 p.m. Eastern, a little bit earlier, so that people in Europe can see. All right. Bye-bye, guys.